Today is a day to honor those who have been lost, stolen, and discarded, both by society at large and our political and social elites. Today is the National Day of Awareness and Action for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirited. I may not be the ideal person to talk about this issue, so I want to direct my viewers to the TikTok user MMIWG_Canada. They bring light to these important stories that get covered up by Canada's mainstream press. This video will be longer than my normal ones and will likely be broken up into multiple parts on TikTok, so if you're watching there, please make sure to watch until the end and you can find the other parts on my profile. This video is going to be an extension and a deep dive into their most recent video on TikTok on the cold case of Nadine Machiskinic. Let's watch their video now.
Nadine Machiskinic was 29 and a mother of 4. On January 10, 2015, Nadine died at Delta Hotel in Regina, Saskatchewan, after falling down a laundry chute. Her strange death has been ruled an accident, despite an autopsy report saying she wouldn't have been able to climb in the laundry chute on her own since she was drunk. Graham Jones, a toxicologist with the Office of the Medical Examiner in Alberta, said he couldn't be confident about the results of the autopsy, blaming her history of alcoholism and drug use for her accidental death. Nadine's aunt, Dolores Stevenson, claims that it's a chute investigation. She explains how Nadine deserves answers into her death and wants a thorough investigation. The coroner who Nadine was brought to after her death waited over 60 hours to call the police. The police also took 1 year to look into suspects.
I wanted to dig up every known article on her case so we could start to paint a picture for Canadians and our friends around the world, and to make them aware that there is a intentional and conscious cover-up of an act of genocide against Indigenous women in Canada. There are 45 articles indexed by Google News that reference Nadine Machiskinic. The first, a special report by CBC Saskatchewan, which was posted on September 22, 2015, 255 days after her death. The most recent article specifically about Nadine's case was also from CBC Saskatchewan. It was posted on April 1st, 2019. It has been 1,130 days since then.
The story started here at the Delta Hotel back in January. It was early on a Saturday morning.
Unfortunately, the police won't talk to us about what happened that morning, but Machiskinic's aunt says police have been talking to the family.
They gave me a story that she had wandered in there drunk and that she ended up on the 10th floor. She pulled a fire alarm on the 10th floor and was screaming around fire.
And then somehow she entered a service room where there was a laundry chute.
And that she sustained injuries from a fall from the 10th floor hotel.
Like
down the laundry chute of the 10th floor.
So why was Machiskinic in the hotel so late at night?
Nadine worked in the sex trade, and that would be the only reason that I assume that she was at the Delta Hotel that night.
So somehow Machiskinic got into the laundry chute and then fell 10 stories. Now, if you think about it, there are really only a couple of possibilities here. Either the intoxicated woman got into the laundry chute herself or someone threw her in. Police say at this point there is no indication of foul play.
It's just unbelievable. It's completely unbelievable.
Stevenson thinks police are not taking this seriously enough. She wants to know how soon after Machiskinic died did the investigation begin. She says police won't tell her. She's also concerned that 9 months later, the toxicology report is still not done, and that's delayed the coroner's report. The Ministry of Justice says that is unfortunate and unusual.
She didn't deserve to die in the manner she did and not have answers. She didn't, like, the stereotype that society has is awful, and it could very well be because of that her case wasn't taken seriously.
This coverage by CBC News is very different than the coverage that they gave the story in their most recent article in April 2019. In that April 2019 CBC article, the writer praises the RCMP and the Regina Police Service for their work on the investigation and just basically being a mouthpiece for outright blatant propaganda. Here's a quote from the final article in the public record of the death of an Indigenous woman in Canada. Quote, "The RCMP's investigators reviewed all of the documentation on the Machiskinic file. The report acknowledges it has limitations and that the RPS investigators, quote, efforts likely surpassed what was demonstrated through documentation. The report made a series of 14 recommendations aimed at improving future investigations." In the public record, there's been no mention or acknowledgement of these 14 recommendations by the Regina Police Service. So what likely happened to Nadine Machiskinic? Let's begin. The date is January 10th, 2015. Nadine enters the Delta Hotel at approximately 3:20 a.m. with 2 male clients. Nadine was a sex worker, and it wasn't uncommon for her to have a few drinks while she was working. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. They make their way inside and enter an elevator to the 10th floor. And that is the last sighting or recording of Nadine before her fall. A man later questioned by police said he saw a woman and 2 guys in the hallway, and they told him that there was a fire. The 2 men that entered the hotel with Nadine were never seen on camera again, and the cameras at the exits were not working according to the security company, via the coroner's report. Nadine was at the bottom of a laundry shaft. She was found by security at 4 a.m. and EMS arrived at 4:15 a.m. Just for a second, I want you to think about what that security guard went through and what they're likely still going through to this day. They were the first responder at the scene of Nadine's fall. They were expected to question hotel guests while dealing with a fire alarm evacuation and likely a murder all on the same shift. Now, knowing these simple facts, how long did it take for the police to get involved? If you said 60 days, you'd be correct. My condemnation and damnation of the Regina Police Service is unfathomable. Nadine dies the morning of January 10th. The coroner's office files its initial report, likely the result in a tragic game of telephone, from security guard to EMS, from EMS to nurse/doctor, and from doctor back to coroner, where no issue is ever made of the randomly dead 20-something's Indigenous sex worker. The guest, who was presumably the last person to see Nadine alive, wasn't questioned by police. He was questioned by hotel security. The police never even asked for a statement. The coroner's office then files what is an invalid, or at the very best, incomplete autopsy report. The filed report goes to RPS and nothing happens for 60 days. The Regina police knew on January 12th that Nadine died in, at the very least, unusual or odd circumstances. They didn't question witnesses. They didn't request video footage. They didn't talk to hotel staff the night of the accident or on the 12th once they got the report from the coroner. No, again, all of the investigatory process in this case, in Nadine's case, was done by the hotel security guard, not the police department. As far as I've been able to tell, the police didn't get involved for months, like at least 2, probably longer. At this point, I think you're starting to understand why the stories just felt so wrong. The police didn't care that a vulnerable woman died in their city. The mainstream media didn't care for 9 months and only cared long enough for the police to come up with a good reason to stop their investigation. This is Canada. This is a late-stage capitalist society discarding those that it deems unworthy or unfit to survive. I would say the federal government or the RCMP should get involved here, but they've already been involved and they've done literally nothing. Something smells rotten, and to me it smells like the Regina Police Service don't give a shit when an Indigenous woman dies in their community. Justice for Nadine, justice for all those who have been lost. Remember and revolt, ACAB.